Excellencies, and a very, very, very warm and special welcome to our Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Welcome, Honorable Minister, and thank you for being with us here today. This is the 29th edition of the Partnership Summit, and we have had the pleasure and honor of 11 overseas ministers speaking to us during the day, starting in the morning. And at this point in time, we have 300 plus from 61 countries other than India present over here. So this indeed reflects a phenomenal interest on India and indeed makes us very proud. Honorable Minister, we were just all discussing in the sessions preceding this about the exemplary work of our country and you especially, and the significant contributions over the many years of yours, which has greatly strengthened Indian businesses, in particular engagement with many of the countries present here. And our deepening of businesses has been extremely related to the way you have guided us and you have taken business along in many of your global engagements. We see today a phenomenal synergy between our foreign policy work as well as the commerce and industry issues. And we wanted to really appreciate your leadership on that. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this particular session is indeed very special with our Honorable Minister for External Affairs. His unstinted support, if I may say, directions and strategic inputs, which I mentioned, have been most significant for all of us in the Indian businesses who are present over here in the global era that we are living in. And the need for renewed focus on global partnerships, of which this is the session all about, to build collaborations, to build global resilience, and indeed most important and critical. So we are very so pleased to have the presence of our Honorable External Affairs Minister, under whose leadership we have seen a phenomenal focus of engaging with more and more countries and more missions that have been established, particularly in the Global South, and many of the Global South countries are present here today. As we were discussing over with our excellencies present here from other countries, there were many questions that were put up, and I'm sure our honorable minister is going to allude to many of them in the speech that follows soon. And we spoke about not only India's foreign policy and how it would be over the next in the years to come. We spoke about India's engagement in this global world, in the changing global world, even in areas of climate to areas which is where India has phenomenal leadership, like India's digital public infrastructure. We talked about global energy security. We talked about many important areas of work that India has been involved in, especially the discussion which took place on the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, the IMEC. And of course, many, many other areas where businesses could work together in today, especially when we talked about our neighbors and the growing importance that we are seeing in compositions like the Quad. And of course, one very hot topic which went around during the discussion was also the elections and elections that outcome in US and the ensuing Trump leadership in the US and what it would mean for the rest of the world. So all this has been just snapshot just to capture the last few hours of our discussions since morning before I welcome onto the dais with honor and pleasure our Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Shri S. Jaishankar, to come and address us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our Foreign Minister.
President CII, Mr. Sanjay Puri, Director General, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Excellencies, dear friends. I'm very pleased today to address the CII Partnership Summit 2024 on the theme of India and the world. This gathering also appropriately focuses on partnerships in progress. Allow me to share my views on this subject. Even otherwise, an economy like India that has risen to the fifth position globally and advancing further needs more significant partnerships. Our stakes in the world are more, the responsibilities are greater, and indeed, the expectations too are higher. But the case for international partnerships are strengthened by the state of the global economy currently as well. At a time when there is so much volatility and uncertainty, India can certainly be a stabilizing factor. We can add as well to the engines of growth and make our due contributions to the progress of technology. The fact is that the world faces complex challenges at multiple levels, which span a range of domains and requirements. At one end are those of more diversified manufacturing and improved logistics. On the other hand, we are entering an era of AI and of EV, of space and drones, of green hydrogen and ammonia, of clean and green technologies, and we can go on. So, whether it is the orthodox demands or those of critical and emerging technologies, a common factor is that of human resources. The knowledge economy puts a premium on innovation and creativity that in turn demand more talent and skills. And this arises as much of the world also contemplates a demographic crisis. The short point is that the very economic landscape that we are looking at is in the midst of a deep transformation. Responding effectively to that cannot just be a national endeavor, it needs more partnerships. Interestingly, side by side, there is also a strategic transformation underway. For a decade now, we have witnessed a steadily building backlash against the current model of globalization. Many societies feel that their capacities, their national capacities, have been hollowed out and that their quality of life is actually stagnating. There is a realization as well that global rules have been gamed and that the current structure cannot come up with effective remedies. The COVID experience has made the world even more insecure because we all stood starkly exposed to the degrees of our external dependence and vulnerability and to leveraging. On top of this, economic rebalancing began to acquire strategic connotations. Surpluses were now translated into influence, if not dominance. The US China friction has assumed a salience that could not have been envisaged just a few years ago. The Ukraine conflict has created its own ripples, reflected in food, fuel, and fertilizer insecurities. The global south is also feeling the brunt of inflation, of debt, of currency shortages, and of trade volatility. In short, the world looks a very tough place. And tough situations call for more friends and more partners. Now, the advent of the second Trump administration, which Mr. Banerjee also referred to, is obviously a major consideration in business circles, and I'm not surprised you spent some time debating it. Obviously, The only safe prediction is one of a degree of unpredictability. Different countries have had their own experiences from the first administration and would presumably draw from that to approach the second. I can state with confidence that the strategic convergences with the United States for India have only grown deeper with time. They have created a larger environment in which more collaborative possibilities can be explored today. Naturally, between two major economies, there will always be some give and take. When we look at economic or technology domains, the case for trusted and reliable partnerships have actually increased in recent years. So, a lot of what lies ahead would be in fashioning terms of engagement that are perceived and recognized to be mutually beneficial. And in that regard, the more that India can bring to the table, the stronger will be our appeal. Some thoughts about the neighborhood would also be appropriate given these changes that we have seen in recent times. The reality on the ground is that our economies and societies are closer linked than ever before. During periods of stress, it could be COVID, the Ukraine aftermath, or financial difficulties, we have actually stood together to our collective benefit. At times, currents of politics may seek to distance or even to disrupt. Obviously, challenges like terrorism cannot be overlooked. But the truth is that otherwise, departures from natural collaboration do have a cost. The viability is also a related issue. On the whole, that realization, I believe, is now more deeply felt. So, the real issue in progressing partnerships is actually about building better at home. The greater our capabilities, the broader our capacities, the more innovative our talent, the wider our skills, the more attractive we are as a partner. As this conclave would recognize clearly, the crucial challenge today is to build our manufacturing to a scale and efficiency that makes us a credible partner abroad. On its part, the government has facilitated that process enormously by addressing long-standing challenges in respect of infrastructure and logistics. Today, the pace at which rail and road or ports and airports are being built is appreciated even beyond our borders. Indeed, the combination of Gati Shakti, making it easier to do business, and enhancing the ease of living have had a synergetic impact on our business climate. In its third term, the early notable decisions of the Modi government include the establishment of 12 new industrial nodes, doubling down on infrastructure projects, and a focus on skill and talent promotion that would propel this growth. Our expectation is that Indian businesses would step forward more vigorously in this journey towards Viksit Bharat. Let us recognize that by making India into a manufacturing power, we emerge as reliable partners to create resilient supply chains. Moreover, only when there is a well-established industrial culture that we can really become a generator of technology. These twin consequences can actually make some difference to de-risking a fragile and anxious global economy. The digital era intensifies the compulsions to forge trusted partnerships. Data, it is now evident, is actually much bigger than just a new oil. The AI revolution is going to transform the way we live, the way we work, perhaps even the way we think. This has serious consequences across the board, including, understandably, how to develop the requisite capacities. Major powers also lead in this regard, but many others have their own contribution to make. Different economies have developed their niche capabilities that fit into a larger whole. If India is to realize its ambitious national prospects, it cannot be left out of this game. On the one hand, this means greater data awareness and sensitivity. On the other, it mandates investments in and development of related capabilities. Thus, the semiconductor domain is one such example. Electric mobility is equally another. Inorganic endeavors to rapidly grow will require collaboration with trusted partners. And that is exactly what we see as the beginnings underway. The domains are also such that there has to be an understanding of it beyond just business. Like it or not, we are increasingly in an era of leveraging, if not of weaponization. Policymakers, therefore, have to place national security filters when it comes to economic decisions, including those of investment. This is the trend the world over, and we would ignore it in this country at our peril. Partnerships are also increasingly cognizant of demographic challenges. The mismatch between the demands for skills and its availability is actually going to increase even more sharply. We in India have noted that mobility has steadily emerged on the global agenda as an area of cooperation. Societies that were historically resistant are now moving to have a second look. Many realize that the assured availability of talent is indeed the X factor in the knowledge economy. Obviously, this is a complex issue because it has accompanying social and even political implications. Where India is concerned, it is imperative to prepare for a global workplace. In fact, this will happen with or without us. It is better that we consciously shape it to our advantage. If this is combined with our own manufacturing and service aspirations, the case for training our talent and skills become even more powerful. There are many dimensions to this challenge. The scale of demand is such that industry must do its fair share by offering training, internships, and other opportunities. For the global level, it is essential we also expand exposure in India to foreign languages and to foreign cultures. Both preparation and access to workplace can be facilitated through understandings between governments. These are today, in fact, key goals for Indian diplomacy. There is a flip side as well that needs to be appreciated. We are seeing a trend in the proliferation of global capability centers in our country. In many ways, they have an efficiency and a sensitivity which addresses contemporary needs. Insourcing from India may well become the new mantra. In any conversation, FTAs inevitably arise as a possible avenue of partnership. There is much truth in that, but equally, some grounds for caution. A low per capita income country with small producers will have a natural reticence about excessive external exposure. This is all the more so if that exposure is also to unfair, subsidized, and large-scale competition. The nature of commerce and supply chains in the world is such today that orthodox precautions are not always adequate. Yet, it would be unwise to forego opportunities and to limit access. The working principle, therefore, has to be one of proceeding with caution. In recent years, we have progressed with the EFTA nations, with UAE, with Australia, and Mauritius. Some major agreements, I think all of you are aware, are under discussion. In a world under churn, such endeavors will naturally tend to occupy greater mind space. The world has also seen a greater interest in developing alternative and redundant connectivity. And I believe that has also been a subject of some discussion earlier in the day. The de-risking that is today at the heart of so many national policies also applies to logistics. There are, after all, so many factors of volatility that the fragility of connectivity needs to be credibly addressed. Even in the last few years, we have seen it threatened by conflicts, by extreme climate events, and by pandemics. Each one of them is a recurring phenomenon, and there could be other black swans out there. Moreover, the current structure of connectivity is itself a distortion that we have inherited from the colonial era. Many natural flows were disrupted by colonial regimes that were acting in their own interest. Restoring them is an intrinsic aspect of economic rebalancing. For a variety of historical and geographical reasons, India today occupies a crucial position. Our ability to forge more connectivity partnerships will certainly have a broader resonance. To the West, we are currently working on the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, and the International North-South Transport Corridor, INSTC. To the East, work is underway on the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway, IMTT, as well as the Chennai-Vladivostok Corridor. When they are realized, do appreciate that the new pathways will actually open up from the Atlantic to the Pacific, traversing India in that process. Its significance is something that you will all obviously appreciate. Partnerships take different forms in different geographies. Our interactions with the developed world are largely through trade, through investment, technology flows, best practices, and mobility. With the global south, however, there is much more that we can do. Supporting development experiences, supporting development projects, sharing experiences, and increasing capacity building are some good examples. India today partners 78 nations in this regard. The actual cooperation is as per the priorities of the partner. For our businesses, they open up new markets, they support services, and they build networking. Grants and lines of credit under the IDEAS program have been an effective tool of diplomacy. We regard them as producing win-win situations across the global south. I should also add that within the Ministry of External Affairs, we have made 3 T's, that is trade, tourism, and technology, as the benchmarks for evaluating performance. Our efforts are also reflected in initiatives to support SMEs abroad, as well as to facilitate investment inflows. A closer synergy between various arms of the government has actually been the hallmark of the Modi government. Friends, India is today steadily expanding its economic, political, diaspora, and cultural footprint in the world. Very often, it is our businesses and our talent who have led these endeavors. But whoever takes the initiative, our goal is to work as Team India abroad. We know that the world's image of India is shaped by actual experiences, be they individual or of corporates or of organizations. Partnerships abroad will only be as effective as forging those at home. And we must do so with even greater determination because the world economy is entering a turbulent era. Many nations are reverting to more nationalistic policies while also asserting their cultural characteristics. The established globalization mantras are discredited, but yet to be replaced by new thinking. The anxieties of recent experiences has brought national security more prominently into our calculations. And technology itself is poised for a big jump with AI. This complex phenomenon, with some facets returning to the past, but others actually leaping into the future, will be a challenge for diplomacy and for business alike. In partnering together, we may get the best value for ourselves. I thank you for your attention.
Honorable Minister, may I please request you to please indulge your presence on the dais for another minute, please, and come to the center. May I request DG CII and CII President Designate Rajiv Memani to come up to the dais and hand over a token of appreciation and thanks to our Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your most comprehensive speech, which is indeed of greatest value for all the participants and shall be in our discussions this evening and tomorrow. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I beseech you to remain seated as the dignitaries leave the dais and the hall, and we move on to our next session. So may I request all of you